Hang on, just
Now the recording is running. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. We've
Bye, Anders.
Bye.
Beck says bye.
Winter's kicking in. We've had really up until now we've been significantly above normal average temperature here in Central Europe.
Yeah.
For the season, and but now it's these over the weekend it's sort of shifted. And now we're where we should be on the average. So actually slightly below. So, and the first winter markets have opened here in the area. So
what temperature is it?
At the moment, it's 6-7 degrees Celsius.
Well, it is cold then, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was 25 here today, but it was 30 on the weekend. So it's starting to move northerly in temperature for us too. So
yeah,
which is probably too hot. I don't know. 30's okay. No hotter than 30. 25 is probably nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of funny. The first time I saw you guys here in Munich, it was freezing winter. It was was it in January? I think you were traveling through.
Yeah, it was because we were going to Iceland, I think, afterwards.
Yeah,
yeah, it would have been.
And that was, I mean, I wouldn't say you look like a fish out of water, but it was certainly not your natural climate.
And that's one of the reasons why actually I have no great desire to travel in winter, because I just don't like the amount of layers that you've got to put on and put off and take on and take off. It really annoys me more than. Yeah, but it'll be winter in China when we go, so I think it's getting cooler there. I had a look today where Willow is about 12 today, and like only 2 months ago it was 30 something, but it gets down to 2, I think. Be interesting to see if it snows. I'd like to see snow on a beach. That would be something different. I've never seen before. So.
No. It's not what it's what you normally think of when you think of beaches. It's not snow.
No, not at all. So,
but in fact,
if they say it only snows a couple of days a year, it says where she is. So I'm not holding out hope that I'll be all that lucky to see it.
Yeah, well, you might be able to get some shots of snow. Maybe I can find it. Speaking of beaches and snow, it's I wouldn't say it's common in Denmark, but we have that. I mean, it happens. Yeah. So I actually have a few older photos.
I can tell you that it actually never happens in Australia.
No. There is a mountain area north of Melbourne where you do have ski area, don't you?
Mount Buller.
Yeah,
Mount Buller is north of Melbourne. There's about 3, I think, 4. There's Mount Buller, Mount Hotham, Falls Creek is another one. So they're the 3 main ones in Victoria that have snow. But it's so price prohibitive in Australia because it's pretty exclusive. I think it's like maybe €150 a day just for a lift pass. And that's without hiring the skis and getting up there. So it costs you around $300-400 Australian. So it probably costs you €250 a day if you had to hire skis and things like that. So it's really that's really out of most people's reach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think €150 would be for like a week in Austria.
Most definitely. But so it's pretty and because the season's so short here too, I guess they got to try and make their money while they can. Like it's at the best they probably get maybe 2 months of good snow if it's a good winter, so
you have to go to New Zealand to have proper winter. New Zealand,
definitely.
New Zealand Alps on the South Island,
definitely.
It was funny because we when we were in Australia visiting family, the kids in Melbourne, they had never seen snow, and we were driving through one of these mountain areas, one day with the whole family, and so we stopped because on a field there were white snow, and
Yep.
and the kids, what's that? What's that? They had never seen it, and for us Europeans, it's just like, we don't think much about it. Yeah.
No, well, my kids had never seen snow until we went to Europe, so
Yeah.
until we were driving through the Czech Republic. So it was the first time they ever seen snow. So
well, I guess it's the equivalent of people in Australia, in Queensland. I mean, if obviously you've seen a coral reef, and we don't hardly ever see that. We don't ever see that here, but most kids maybe do not know what that is. I mean, it's
like when you watch a movie sometimes or something, and it's people going to see the ocean for the first time. Like, I can't fathom that because, the ocean's the ocean, and I just assume that everyone's seen the ocean, but, not everyone has, have they? So,
It's one of the things. I mean, I grew up in Denmark, and it's a land country with a lot of coastal line, thousands of kilometers, so I'm often asked if I miss something from Denmark, and it would be the coast, it would be the sea. Whereas people growing up here in Bavaria, southern Germany, we're literally in the Alps. And an ocean view is not something you have here. So it's quite funny to think about. What you think of being just something that you just have, and then once you don't have it anymore, it's just I really miss that. I never really appreciated living near the coast. So
would the Baltic be the closest to Munich?
The Baltic Sea, you mean?
Yeah.
It's called the Ostsee. It is the Baltic Sea. Yeah, it is the Baltic Sea. Also, there's a little bit of coastal line in the Atlantic, actually, on Bremerhaven, Hamburg. That entrance, that side.
Yeah,
it's actually the Atlantic. Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Or the last part of the English Channel, whatever
whatever you call it.
Yeah, exactly.
Most definitely.
Exactly. So, to the listeners, we're already far away into our conversation, Mark. Welcome to. We didn't have the proper introduction here. You are listening to Southern Summers and Northern Winters, and Mark, have you had a good week since we last spoke?
I have. I haven't done too much. I worked all weekend, and then I also spent 16,000 euros on a new car. So I don't know whether you call it a good thing or a bad thing, but my bank account's certainly a little bit lighter than it was at the start of the week. So but hey,
are you happy with your purchase? Are you happy with your purchase?
Well, I don't even have it yet, so it's still in a holding yard somewhere in Melbourne at the moment, waiting for the truck to the nearest dealership where we bought it from, and then they've got to make a few modifications, put a tow bar on it, so I can tow a trailer and a few other specs. I wanted a bonnet guard just to protect it from stones a little bit and things like that. So once they get done, and I hand over the remaining balance after the $500 I paid the other day.
Deposit,
yeah, it should be all go. But I mean, look, it's like all things cars. This guy who was at the dealership closest to me, he's like, yeah, okay, I can do this, and I can only give you, this off. So I went, okay, bang that. I'm going to ring some dealerships in Melbourne. So I rang a couple in the city, and they're like, oh yeah, we can give you this, and this. So I went, okay. So I went back to this clown at the dealership that was closest to us and said, hey, I can get all this in Melbourne for this price, and I don't mind going to Melbourne. It's only 2 hours away. I could easily get on train and go pick it up. But then he's like, I'll just talk to my sales manager and, and we'll see what we can do. And, so then he come back and matched it. So I was like, okay.
Of course he did.
That's pretty good. And then actually he rang me yesterday and he said the company who make the car, they're having a 2024 plate run out. So there's another $2,000 off it. So I was like, okay, that's all good then.
Yeah. Well, that's a good
So,
deal
so I
then.
got cheaper.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, I haven't really been doing too much.
Okay. So I'm just thinking, that amount, not to dwell too much on how expensive
Yeah.
cars are, but I usually compare, big amounts to what could I actually buy in airfare. What
Yep.
plane tickets? Where would that take you? If you could take the entire family to
Uh,
somewhere nice.
yeah, look, I could. I could probably get to. I'd probably take me to the four of us to Europe
Yeah.
twice, returned maybe from Australia and over again. So
Yeah.
2 returns and one way would possibly get us there.
Yeah.
Or if there was 4 of us, yeah. But then I'd still probably have to spend that much again to stay in Europe for a month. So I
Yeah.
reckon that amount of euros. Oh, so let's say it's 25. That'd probably get me maybe 6 to 8 weeks in Europe, I reckon.
Yeah.
If I was a little bit frugal on where I wanted to stay and what I was actually doing,
Yeah.
that'd be the equivalent to that. So, but I needed a new car, and I wanted to buy a brand new car because I want it to last the next 15 years at least, and that's generally how long I hold on to my cars. So if it can last me until I'm 65, 66, that should be enough that then I can just buy a little small 2-door runaround for me and the wife for the later years of life. So that was the plan. Like, I would spend more on a car if I could be like, cars are all relative, I think, to price. So I spend $25,000 Australian if it lasts me 15 years. I'd spend $50,000 Australian if I could guarantee it would last me 25 years. You know what I mean? But they don't.
Yeah.
As they get dearer, they're just about comfort and and extras and perks, the things that make it look good. So
yeah. I mean, I know, of course, you can't always compare things, because where you live, you need a car. Where I live, I don't need a car. So no. it's really two different worlds, and you can't always say, well, I could have plane tickets for that price. Yeah, you could, but you do need a car. So absolutely, I hear you. I do. But it's just funny to compare sometimes. Oh yeah, that would get me there and there and there.
Most definitely. And don't worry, I thought about that a few times. Like we,
you probably
turned on it as to whether to buy like a cheaper car, a second-hand one worth maybe, I don't know, 6,000 or 8,000 euros, like half price, and and it comes to the same thing. I'm still gonna have to turn it over, again in 10 years, and and things like that. So
you probably have more maintenance on it as well. Yeah. I mean, you would probably have like repair costs.
Well, this thing actually come with a 7-year unlimited warranty. It comes with 5 years of capped price servicing, so that's one a year at 10,000 kilometres each, and it comes with 5 years roadside assistance, all included. Wow. So it was a pretty good bargain, I think. So that was one of the selling points of it. And they do that in Australia with the Chinese brands like that we're buying, because I think there's not so much a confidence thing in them like the legacy brands yet at this stage. So they have to put out a big, a big warranty and a lot of perks to sort of get people to go, well, okay, I don't want a Volkswagen, I don't want a Ford, or I don't want to whatever else is out there, So the Chinese brand might be okay, and I think they are okay, because all brands had to start somewhere at some stage, didn't they? Like this is the thing. So.
Yeah, the problem with where I'm sitting in Munich, it's we have the BMW mothership here in the city, and BMW the German car industry at the moment, they're really having problems because they overslept basically the whole electric vehicle movement, and they were too arrogant for too long. However, already 10 years ago, 15 years ago, BMW made such good cars that they had problems. Getting people to come into the repair, to the service dealerships, because the cars, nothing was wrong.
Nothing wrong.
There was nothing wrong. They didn't make any money on spare parts or
that's so terrible for the consumer for once, isn't it? Like, But I've been reading a fair bit about Volkswagen. They're having like a Kodak and Nokia moment, trying to not moving quick enough to stay up with the trend. Like, and
it's not like yeah, the
I'll
signs
tell
were
you, after
there.
going to China, yeah,
Yeah,
after
yeah,
going to China, they've got a long way to cover some of these brands because
yeah,
there is absolutely tons of flash-looking electric vehicles and hybrids in China that no one's even heard of that look
yeah.
out of this world.
Yeah, no, it's they're laying off people in here in Germany. Yeah, at Volkswagen, I think it's in the tens of thousands of people
Yeah,
actually, and that's just at Volkswagen. It's then you have all the side the subcontractors
yeah,
and it's just it's a huge thing in Germany, and German economy is already struggling.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
definitely.
I speaking of German economy, Lufthansa, which is our national
Oh,
airline, they have been in dire straits for decades. It feels like decades. There's constantly something, at the moment, there seems to be a little bit of a. They're going steady and going okay, but yeah, it's a mammoth. It's tens of
you know,
thousands
I
of
flew with Lufthansa in 2023 from, where did I fly from? Singapore to Frankfurt,
yeah.
and from Frankfurt back to Singapore. And if I could avoid them and never fly them again, I
No,
certainly would. That was about how impressed I was with that flight.
yeah,
The plane, I reckon, was about 25 years old. The food was terrible. The seats
mhm,
were uncomfortable, and the
yeah,
staff looked very much uninterested in what was going on.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
Lufthansa,
you know,
Lufthansa, they have these little leather seats. I never understood that. I don't know if you have to sit in a plane seat for like more than an hour. Leather is
yeah,
not, at least to me, to my body, to my what I like. It's
yeah,
just not comfortable.
nah. And this, like this thing we were flying on, it was a 747-800, which I don't think they've made in a while. It's like a double decker 747, not quite like the A380, but I think it's only first class. It's maybe
Above,
upstairs.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the screens wouldn't work in two of the seats we had. Like, the seat wouldn't recline. The button
Oh,
was broken. It was a
yeah,
nightmare. I booked the
terrible.
flight when we were deep in COVID, so like I got a really good price on it, and that was why I booked it. But
And
yeah, I wouldn't.
during that period, you were just happy to be able to book
Yeah,
plane
yeah,
tickets and go
that's
somewhere.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. But yeah, I mean, I'd say I wouldn't fly it again, but I would. I'm all about the price, you know. And I get there, and while I'm on board, I complain and whinge, and then I get off the other side and I go, it wasn't that too bad, really, was it? Look, we got here. That's the
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the main thing, isn't it?
How
So
quickly you forget and forgive a
yeah.
bad airline. What's your favorite airline? Speaking of airlines,
Oh, Qatar for sure.
yeah.
They're the best airline I've ever flown. I only flown with them once, but I have nothing but fantastic memories from flying with them. It was a Boeing 777, so it was a two aisle plane, which is good because I hate flying single aisle. Double aisle
Yeah.
is certainly much better, and they had big, wide, comfy seats, and the food was good, and the drinks were good. And actually, we flew Singapore last year too, and Singapore were really, really good as well. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of these airlines always rate really highly every year in the awards, and I can actually see why. Qantas used to, but I certainly wouldn't rate them highly anymore from the
Gone are
flights that
those
I've
days.
taken with
Yeah.
them in the like,
Yeah.
yeah, way gone are those days. And I would actually say that it's only because the government protect them here in Australia that they've probably still got a large market share because there's really only one other airline to compete. So, and the federal government looks after them because they're like, well, we need an airline if Australians are in trouble overseas and we need to send planes and things like that. So,
Yeah.
so the Australian government certainly look after them. Qatar wanted to expand into Australia last year and the federal government blocked it. So Qantas are in their pocket, and there's no doubt about that. So they look after them, and hence their service has fallen and no one actually likes them. No one's got much good to say about them anymore in Australia.
No.
Whereas once upon a time, they were highly loved, but over COVID, they did a lot of dodgy stuff. Like they booked flights that they knew weren't going to go and took people's money, and they laid off workers and got fined for it. Yeah, they went through a whole lot of
Yeah.
really bad things during COVID to their workers, staff, and the general public. And in the end, yeah, they're still trying to rebuild their reputation, I think, in the eyes of the Australian public.
Yeah. Yeah, but I can sort of understand. There's something, about having a national airline
Yeah,
in Denmark. Denmark is too small to have a, a competitive, huge national airline. So they with the Swedes and the Norwegians, there's some Scandinavian Airlines is sort of the thing, and I think only the Swedes and the Danes are in it now. The Norwegians got out years ago, and imagine like the UK not having British Airways. That would it's unthinkable. It's unthinkable.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But yeah, so
I had
twice.
I had a good experience with Austrian Airlines years ago. It was really, having your meal served at on proper plates and real utensils, and it was really nice. But it's I haven't flown with them in years, so I've no idea if they're still up to that game. But it was a nice experience.
This is a little bit off target, but talking about getting meals served on nice plates, I'm a bit partial to some chicken, so I've been to KFC in a few different countries, and if you go to KFC in Vietnam and you order in, it actually gets served on a proper plate with a knife and fork.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, but you know what?
Which is a little bit different.
Actually, speaking of that, I mean, it is, more sustainable if you look at it from like that point of view. It's instead of always having these throwaway bins, packaging and the utensils and all that, it's just nicer. It's just nicer. If you go to Starbucks, you sit in, you used to get your coffee or tea in a proper cup. I don't know if that's the thing everywhere, but still here in Munich, if you go in and you say, I'm gonna enjoy it here, you will get a proper cup.
Excellent. There's not many Starbucks in Australia, so I don't really know. I think last count there was only about 20 of them left in Australia. They're sort of getting shown the door. Australians are pretty much coffee snobs, and Starbucks is
it's not good enough.
Probably not. Is not on their it's not on their agenda a lot. So it's overpriced, and
it is overpriced. That's
not all that flash.
Yeah. No.
So they were nearly out of business at one stage. There's only about 5 shops left in Australia at one stage, about 6 or 7 years ago. But I think they've rebuilt back to about 20 shops. But they're all in touristy areas to obviously catch the tourists who love Starbucks. So same as in China, Starbucks is on the way out. I was reading the other day they're closing like half a dozen stores every week in China because China's having a bit of a renaissance into Chinese brands. Like they're feeling very patriotic at the moment in China. So they, which has got a lot to do with the West, I think, picking on it. Well, not picking on them, but there's definitely a demeanor towards China that's possibly not fair or fair, depending on whether you believe Western media or, as Donald would say, the real media or the fake media, as you call it. But they've got their own brand called Luckin Coffee, and still exactly the same as Starbucks, do all the same sort of things, but it's a Chinese brand and they charge half the price for it.
Yeah, there you go. It's, yeah. I don't know. Definitely. I mean, I think in Germany, you pay, well, up to €6, maybe €7 for a big latte. Yeah. Which is insanely.
That's a lot of money.
Overpriced. Yeah, it is. It's really, it's crazy.
A lot of money. I'm trying to think. Probably average coffee in Australia, I would say at the moment, is probably, I would reckon probably around $6. So what's that? Maybe €3, €3.50. And most places, Starbucks is probably more, but if you just go to a local cafe somewhere, you're probably paying around $6 for a cappuccino or a latte.
Yeah.
Speaking of local, I actually had a look today and to see how far Munich was from Mafra, and it was
16,282
kilometres away. Only further places away are in New Zealand.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I remember that feeling when the first time I landed in Auckland. I made a Facebook note or something. I said, this is the furthest I've ever been away from home, and it
Auckland
truly
was about 18,000 or something kilometres away.
Yeah.
That's cold.
Yeah. So in general, we have not really discussed an overall topic for today's, but I think we're already well into airlines, and so. But what about
definitely?
What about that the whole? I think we more or less already touched base on it. But airport security in general. Usually, as a family traveler, you would probably not expect people to fly first class or priority checking, because that's usually something that will cost you extra money. But how do you feel about airport security these days? Has it eased up a little bit in Australia, or is it still? Because I remember it being quite strict.
I actually think it's easier now than it once was. Most definitely. I think that they're more likely just to take your word these days, that if you say, hey, I don't have anything, they just let you go through. Whereas once upon a time, they were more prone to, I think, checking your bags and things like that. So, but these days, if you come in and you say, hey, I haven't got anything, they'll just say, off you go, and they'll let you out. But I remember early on, though, they would actually, if you said, you'd say you've got something, they would make you unpack your bag and show them. But now, now they'll just ask, and if you say, hey, I've got like a wooden statue that's been treated and I got it from here or something like that, they'll be like, yeah, okay, no worries, off you go. But it's definitely got easier, and so it's got easier going outbound too. I don't know whether we spoke about this in the first podcast or not, but you don't have to check, you don't have to take your computers out of your bags anymore in Australia.
Yeah, true. So, the scanners have improved, so that's easier. But in general, it's just it's just there are some airlines, advertising here in Europe. You can say you get priority check-in and fast track and all of these things, and I don't know. At the end, because Lufthansa, they had this for a while, but in the end, the passengers would end up at the same gate. Well, the first class passengers, they do get a chance to go on board, and at some, I think it was business class, they had a completely separate entry. But still,
at the gate, you go one side, economy go the other side.
But still, what I wanted to say with all this was just, you end up waiting until the last passenger has boarded anyway, but maybe you can sit down and you can maybe have a glass of champagne or whatever, a glass of orange juice. But still, you don't get to your destination faster in any way. It's just
you don't.
And it's a very expensive glass of champagne. I mean, maybe you sit a little more comfortably, a little more leg room, but it's just, I don't know. It's just the whole security, the whole priority. You can pay your way through. I don't buy that. It's just not worth the money.
One of the things that I actually do miss about travelling with my kids when they were younger is that families used to board first.
Yeah,
I remember this. If you have kids under a certain age, they'd say come to the front and you can board first. So that was always good, especially when you were a parent and you were carrying bags that were your kids as well. And you'd be rushing up there and be like, you sit down, what do you need out of your bag? And I remember throwing bags up, and I'm trying to get books out and tablets and things for the kids, and then trying to get my stuff organised, and then there's people coming along the aisle, and you've got to move sort of into the seat a bit and then move back out, and you're always worried about holding people up, and so it was a decent effort to get on.
How's your experience with other passengers when you have kids? What's your experience with the tolerance, the patience from other passengers?
I think I've been pretty lucky, really. Mainly, I only really flew probably once when our kids were like a babyish, and after that, we sort of waited until, not for any other reason, but lack of funds. They're a little bit older, like 4 or 5, when we started flying, which was all right because they were easily able to amuse themselves with screen times and things like this. So there was no real crying going on at that stage for them. So that was lucky. Because look, I'm a parent, but if there's a kid screaming on a plane, it really is hectic for you as a passenger, and
Yes.
it really is hectic for the parent too. So I have some empathy for the parent, but I also have an understanding of these airlines that are now advertising kid free flights and kid free areas on planes. I don't know how they can actually stop a kid's sound from crying, but yeah, some airlines are doing kid free or family free areas. So I don't know whether I don't know how you would do that. Like you'd have to be up one end of the plane, but the pointy end of the plane's where the rich people sit. So I don't actually know. But there is airlines doing this, and I'm sure there's quite a market out there, especially for people that don't have kids and have never travelled with kids and don't actually understand that we're trying our best to keep our kids quiet because we don't want them upset either. We don't want to upset you, and them screaming upsets me just as much as it upsets you. So but.
The only
Life.
I am completely on board with you there. I mean, as a parent, you do know what it's like to sit there with a screaming child. Although Anton was usually he actually liked flying a lot, and but still, I mean, I'm sure he bothered other passengers from time to time with whatever thing he was doing, kicking the seat or
kicking the seats, things like
that, stuff like that.
Most definitely.
Where my patience quickly runs out is when parents seem to do not care what their kids are doing. I mean,
they're wanting someone else to parent them.
Yeah, pay attention. Really, at one time it was actually not flying; it was going by train in Denmark. There was one mom. She was alone with a kid. They sat opposite us, and the kid was really not feeling well, and ended up, vomiting. And the mom had just fallen asleep. It was just like, and the kid had really been loud for a while because she was feeling unwell, the daughter, and it was just, come on. I mean, pay attention. Maybe you're tired. You are alone with your child. Maybe it's been a long journey. I don't know, but still, it's
your job.
It's your job as a mom.
Yeah, it's your responsibility, isn't it? Like, I do certainly hear you though. They're a lot of parents seem to just be happy to ignore it. I come across this all the time, everywhere. Like we went out for dinner the other night, little local pub that we go to that's not far from here, in a town called Stratford on the Avon in Australia, not Stratford on the Avon in England.
In England, no?
Yeah, we were sitting at this table, and the parents were on the other side of us, directly over from us, but just directly next to us on the other side of the table as well, on the opposite side. So we were sort of in the middle. They were on one side, and on the other side of our table was like some pinball machines. So, and their kids are there just going absolutely crazy, and the parents are like, you can see them sitting over there just trying to ignore them as much as possible, because they're not annoying them, but they're certainly annoying the shit out of me, that was for sure. So and I felt like saying, look after those kids. But I'm sure we've all had them parenting moments, but that's life, isn't it? Sometimes you just do what you got to do.
I think, and this may be a good advice to others. If you travel with your kid, at least make sure that I know it can be exhausting, but in between flights and long travel days, make sure you rest, go somewhere where you can actually have some rest and feel renewed and rested before, so that you don't fall asleep whilst your kid is annoying the hell out of other passengers.
Most definitely.
So,
this brings me to a whole other topic to deal with kids and flying, is that parents who don't book seats on planes but then expect other people to move from their seat to accommodate them so they can sit next to their children. Like, I read about this a lot, that they hope to just get on and all get seated next to each other because they don't want to pay for seats, and I understand that. It's an added extra in the sales funnel that
Oh, you
airlines
mean
have,
because
booking
okay,
seats.
yeah, booking. So like a fixed seat.
Yeah, fixed
Yeah.
seat. So a lot of
Okay.
budget
Yeah.
airlines
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
don't have the fixed seat, do they?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
you need to pay for the fixed seat, and
Yeah.
most of the budget airlines, if there's four of you, they're not going to sit you together because they want you to. They want you to pay for the fixed
Of
seat.
course.
Like there's no way around it. So they'll say you sit in aisle 2 and you sit in aisle 6 and you sit in aisle 8 and and you sit over there. And so and I understand that, like I said, not everyone wants to pay for a seat, but I've had this experience before and I've read about it plenty of times where families get on a plane and they haven't booked seats, but then they expect other people to move around to accommodate them so they can all sit together. Which I think is wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong in both ways. It's wrong for the airline to separate families to start off with, but it's then also wrong for families to expect people to move to accommodate them when this person may have booked that seat for a reason. They may have booked a window seat because that's where they like sitting, or they may have booked the aisle seat because that's where they're sitting. And it's wrong that person then should also have to possibly be not responsible, but should be responsible for your kid. If your kid's sitting 5 rows back and you're up the front, well, you're certainly not looking after him, are you?
No,
because
of course not.
So the person who's sitting next to him, I wouldn't say assumes the responsibility, but would feel that possible responsibility, and also sitting next to a little kid can possibly make you uncomfortable, I guess, if you're if you're grown,
if you're not used to having to deal with a kid.
This is it, and this doesn't just happen with kids. Like, we were on a flight once where it was a smaller plane, so I think it was like a 3 and 3 with a single aisle down the middle, and and Marley had a seat, and this lady came up and said, my husband and I just got engaged and he's sitting next to you, but I'm sitting down the front. Will you move? And I turned around and I said, no, she won't move. Like, why didn't you book seats? This and that. And I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. I don't care if you're on a honeymoon. Like, this is my daughter and she's 5 and she's not moving anywhere just so you can sit next to your husband or your fiance. So, but yeah, so it's a strange quandary, and I think some American airlines now have changed to allow families to sit together, but a lot still haven't. Like, a lot want that seat money.
The thing is, I can understand it from the airline's perspective because they want to make money, but in the end, many passengers will end up having a bad experience. And
that's it.
And so what have you gained, really? I mean, you should just include the fixed seat in the price. Come on. It's
It's like everything today, though. Everything feels like a sales funnel. You start off at the base, but the base is never enough, no matter what you're buying, whether it's airfares, cars, you name it. Like, there's always things that you need or things that need to be added onto it. Like, the bottom line is never the bottom line anymore. Like,
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, if you want, if you only have carry-on, and I think some airlines don't even allow carry-on anymore. I think you have to actually pay for your carry-on, and it can only be like 8 kilos or something like that.
And some are getting smaller. Some only allow 5 kilos now.
Yeah.
Like, it's all. Yeah. You book a budget airline. Okay, so you got to book a seat if you're a family. Then you've got to book luggage. Then you've got to book food if it's a long trip. So it's like,
forget about it. You can just go straight to the more expensive airlines. Yeah.
A lot of the times you can.
This is actually this is the reason why I don't use budget car rental companies, because for that specific reason is because I usually ended up paying more, and so now. It was just, but I am annoyed with Sixt at the moment, although we are go-kart holders, but because they have been getting, after COVID and all, they've really gotten annoying with all their extra charges as well. I mean, even your spouse are not allowed to drive the car.
It costs you $8 extra a day for your spouse.
A day, which is a lot for a whole month.
Definitely.
I mean, so we usually, when we go to Denmark in the summer, we rent for 4 or 5. This year was 5 weeks, and it would have cost us like, I don't know, 20% extra for the entire, just to have her be crazy, able to drive once or twice, because usually I'm the driver.
That's mad, isn't it?
And also the insurance is you have to pay extra for that.
And the excess, if you're, over the $4,000 or $5,000, if you crash, then you've got to pay, all this. Yeah, that's a really good prime example. Just include everything, okay? This is what I want to pay. This is what I want to know. What I want to be covered for everything. So just give me the price for everything, okay? And, this is how they get us all, because they know, you can look at it and you go, wow, that's pretty cheap, isn't it? Like, okay, that's pretty good, but only I can drive. I've got no GPS. If I crash, I've got no insurance. If I crash and it costs me more than that, I'm going to pay $20,000 excess. And that's all this. And in the end you go, it's just easier to take the train.
Exactly. And sometimes you're actually at the pickup and you almost have the key and you're ready at home. Your family's packed. The suitcases are in the hallway. You're just ready to go, and you're at the pickup counter at Sixt, and they start to say, well, you know what, you should really upgrade this, and you should upgrade that, and if you're in stress and you just want to go, sometimes I've had that. I said, and they said, we can do this for just X amount of euros a day, and I didn't think clearly at that moment.
Yeah.
Because I ended up paying like 200 euros extra for whatever thing. And you know what? What you mentioned, no GPS. Well, most cars have GPS built in these days. But if you want to be sure, they that's when they have like extra 8 euros a day or something. If you want to make sure that you get it.
Sure.
Come on.
And then you can hire some like lounge chair, like camping chairs, all these other different bits and pieces if you want, if you're going here or there. Like actually we rolled up in New Zealand at Enterprise it was. And I had booked a GPS and I rolled up and the lady's like, no, we don't have any of them behind the counter, like, because I just assumed that it was, and that's what it was on the form. It was like, do you want to book a GPS to take with you in your car?
Yeah.
I mean, in one way it worked out well because she gave us an upgrade to a far better car that actually had a GPS built in. But I was allowed to actually book, a GPS to take in the car, just, like a Navman or whatever they are, Garmin or, whatever they are these days. Yeah, but they didn't actually stock them. So she had to give me a RAV4 instead of a Hyundai i30. So I was like... Okay, but yeah, so just one of them things again, they're trying to upsell you and then they don't even have the product. Like, and what would have happened if I had got there and they didn't have one? Like, would I have got me $10 a day back or me whatever it was?
Yeah, whatever.
That I'd already paid, like, And
what? The next thing what happened was they completely screwed it up this time, Sixt, in terms of the billing. We had the car from like early August till early September. So we crossed a month end. And what they did was upfront, they charge you like they block the whole amount on your credit card. I knew that. Yeah. Plus some kind of extra fee, 300 euros in case something, So towards the end of the month, they finally, and this blocked amount is sort of released after a few days, and then it's blocked again once they really bill you. What they did then towards the end of the month of August is that they took the full amount of August, and then there was like 5 days into September that would be billed in September. But what they did was that they once again blocked the full amount on our credit card as a standard procedure and said, why? Because we owe you like 150 euros at this point in time, yet you block like 1,500 euros on my credit card. Where's the where's the rationale here? Well, I don't understand. Well, yeah, well, it's standard procedure for long-term rentals. That may be a standard procedure for business clients or whatever, where it doesn't really matter. But we're a family on holiday. Come on,
Yeah, that's
the credit.
I haven't got.
I'm 1,500 euros out now.
That's it. Are you paying my overdrawn fee?
They couldn't care less. I complained, and I got the standard phrases all over. Yeah. Every time we understand your concern, but our procedures are I don't
we'll
care.
We'll strive to improve.
Yeah, whatever. No, they did. Bottom line, they didn't care. They had their procedures, and that was it. You're
just a number in the queue, aren't we?
Yeah. Be warned, if you have long-term rentals. It can be a stressful thing.
Hiring a rental car is not something I've ever done a lot of, which is quite surprisingly in all the times I've travelled. I reckon I've maybe hired less than a dozen rental cars. I would say even probably only maybe 6 or 7, I reckon, in reality. For a long time, I was scared to drive on the other side of the road, because these guys in Europe drive on the wrong side of the road. So
and vice versa.
So that was a little bit confusing for me at the start, and I was sort of always a bit weary about doing that because it's a little bit challenging at the start, I must say. And lucky I had my wife with me, because she'd be like, "You're drifting." You're sort of used to that side of the road. I think the first rental car I hired overseas was in the Algarve in Portugal. So and I just hired a little Fiat Punto, I think it was, or something, and it was quite a little zippy little car. So, and after that, it was okay, but I still just haven't really found the need a lot, because we generally stay in the city a lot of the time.
You do.
So and you don't need to. But in saying that, I have driven a lot in Europe, because when we seen you in 2019, I'd been driving an old Volvo around for 6 months that we ended up driving basically from Scotland to Poland. So by the end of that, I was an old hand at driving on the wrong side of the road, but but never hired a rental car, I think, for more than a week. And we hired one in Paris once and drove from Paris to Freiburg and Luxembourg and then back to Paris, and that was about it.
The Volvo was a like a friend who
it was a friend from England.
It
was a mate in England lent it to us for, I think I had it for maybe 4 months or so that he had lent it to us. So I think it cost a fortune though. The insurance was hectic because we didn't have a permanent residence in Europe. I think the insurance was something like $200 Australian a month, so 120 euros a month or something for insurance. It was on the high side, but I really didn't have any other way to do it. And that's the hard thing. If you're going, I don't know how people do it in Australia, I must admit, because there's a lot of backpackers that come to Australia and get vehicles, and I don't actually know how they do it. Because when I looked into it going overseas in Europe, you had to have an address, because if you got caught for speeding fines or things like that, they had to be able to send it somewhere. So it was really hard to get a car. So luckily this car was registered. My mate had it registered, so that was okay. But I don't know what you would do if you just rolled up on a long-term trip and went to a car yard and said, "Okay, I want to buy a car to travel around in."
Trying to think, because we did actually rent campervans in Australia and New Zealand for extensive periods, like 3 months, but I think maybe we paid. I honestly can't remember if we paid like some of it up front and the rest by return or something like that, because maybe we did, and then we would have to. They did photocopy our driver's licenses and credit cards in case we got a speeding ticket or something. They would immediately just book it on our credit card. Yeah,
but there's definitely backpackers from Germany and the UK who come to Australia and they actually just go and buy a car outright, not rent it.
Yes,
but what I'm saying is I don't know how I could have done that in Europe. I looked into it and I needed to have an address that said a physical address. So like I said, my mate lent me one, and my other alternative was we had some other really good friends in Germany, in Freiburg, and he was going to buy me a car there and put in his name and same sort of deal. But but I had to have a fixed address somewhere. So
wow,
one of the mysteries of life. And you don't really want to hire a car for 3 months like that. It cost you a small fortune.
Yeah, we were actually looking into that, but the problem was because when we had decided to go to Australia and drive around for 3 months, we looked into this with buying a camper van and then selling it again upon exit. The problem was sometimes we read that some of these backpackers, they were losing a lot of money because people would speculate into this, and they would wait until people were desperate, because they were leaving the country, and then they would say, "Okay, I'll buy your car for a ridiculous fee,"
and that's true. I could see that happening. People would definitely do that. They go, "Well, if you're leaving next week, what are you going to do with it if you haven't sold it?"
Exactly.
And I thought that too. If I had got a car in Europe, what would I have done with it? Would I have just went to the airport and left it in airport parking and flown away?
Probably there are people who have done this because they sort of I don't know, but it's so Alex said, my wife, she said, no, we're renting, and then we. Luck was that we got delayed some months. We didn't leave as early as we had thought we would. We were delayed a couple of months, which led us to travel somewhat off season throughout the 12 months that we were around the world. So we were actually in Australia during the winter time, and in New Zealand also during winter and spring. So we had a camper van for like $25 a day.
Beautiful.
Which you couldn't get a cheaper car.
Nah.
So that was our luck, because actually towards the end of the New Zealand trip, we had it for $25 a day for 3 months, but we wanted to extend it for three or 5 days at the end. And then we got an offer from the rental company, and it was like, I think it was $300 or $400 for 4 days.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, no.
No.
We'll just. I think they do that.
Yeah.
I've had that with travel insurance. I think when we went away for like 13 months or what it was, I reckon I had travel insurance for 12 months, and I reckon it was about $1,200, I reckon. And because it was going to expire and needed to extend it for another month, I reckon it was $500 nearly to extend it for a month when we'd only paid like $1,200 or $1,100 for 12 months. So and they've got you, because most travel insurance policies say you've got to start off in your home country. So, and if you're not starting off in your home country, you're already abroad. Sometimes it makes it a little bit harder to get that coverage. So they screw you any way they can, don't they?
No. Yeah, it's already now, Mark, we are way into over an hour. So
already?
This episode has been...
nice.
We've covered a lot of topics. Mark is the one dealing with our social media appearances, and you really... I wanted to praise you a little bit for this, because you're really good at finding I sometimes even forget what we talked about, because the conversation is just going along and you don't really keep notes. And so, but you really, you are good at finding these sentences, taking them out and highlighting what we've covered in the episode. So thank you very much for that, Mark. It's really,
that's fine. I enjoy it.
Yeah. And sometimes, did we talk about that? Yeah, we did. Yeah. So
luckily, since we've both travelled, we've got plenty of photos. I've got plenty of photos of most of these places we talk about and things like that. So that makes it easier to add some text to them and put them out there.
Yeah. So this episode will be out soon, and thank you to all our listeners. We're still in Mark. We're still in lack of analytics. We still don't have any. Yeah, we don't have any statistics, so I don't know how many people are listening to us. But we will. We will soon have this. I think anything from a week to a month.
Yeah.
Delay. I mean,
you know what? Doesn't matter if anyone's listening or not.
Yeah, we have fun doing this. Yeah,
that's it.
Eventually,
we definitely have fun doing this. So I've got what's coming up this week for me? Not much. I'm going to Melbourne on Friday, I think. So on the train, which I don't normally do.
Okay, what's happening in Melbourne?
My wife wants to go to the Queen Victoria Market, which is a big Melbourne's probably central market. I
remember that. Yeah, we actually did. Bought groceries there when we stayed in Melbourne.
Yeah. Apparently last time she was there, she's seen some notebook that she thinks our daughters, the people she lives with in China might like a couple of these notebooks. They're like leather bound with Australia on the front of them or something. Because when we were there, we noticed they had notebooks and they kept notes. So and because we're going to be there at Christmas time, she wants to go to Melbourne to buy a couple of these notebooks that are at the market with a leather-bound cover. So we're off to the Queen Victoria Market in Melbourne on Friday. We'll probably get the train at about 7 a.m. at a town near us, and it'll take 2.5 hours maybe. So then we'll jump off and spend 4 or 5 hours running around the city, look
and go back
at a few things, jump back on, and be home by 6 o'clock at night or something like that. So something different.
It's a nice place, the Queen Victoria Market. And speaking of leather notebooks, I have a couple of these and I enjoy them. I bought them because they look nice, and I also sometimes see people carrying these. But in the end, I just end up not using them.
I also have some leather notebooks. I have not a big A4 one, but one that's like half the size of A4, and then I have a little pocket one that my plan was that whenever we go traveling and I want to, for our websites, I want to, remember some things, I should jot them down in a notepad, and take these things home. But now I can just turn on my voice recorder on my phone. And
just make a voice memo. Yeah, exactly.
Which is a little bit easier, and I don't have to carry a pen, and then I don't have to find a pen in a bag, and I don't have a notebook and things like that. But it sounds good, and it doesn't sound. It just sort of, it feels like you're a bit of a writer if you're walking around with your notepad taking notes and things like that, doesn't it?
It looks cool, and you see people
it does look cool.
In flippy cafes, and they sit there and, like you say, they jot things down. And I want to do that too. I want to be cool.
So do
like that.
So do I. And I often say, if you can't be the part, look the part.
Yeah, exactly. So, fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. Don't you?
But I have one here. It's just all dusty, and I don't use it. It's just
No, but, I definitely Okay. Anyway, folks, it was really good having a chat again, and I hope someone's tuning in. But never fear, me and Anders will be back next week.
Absolutely, we will. We will talk some more. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye.